Hello everyone, welcome back to League of Legends DFS Esports Breakdown for July the 6th. A pretty uninteresting 4-gamer at first glance, so should be pretty intriguing. I think there's a couple spots maybe. I don't know. I'll just be honest, there's probably only one spot where I'm really interested in anything weird. Um, so we'll talk about that when we get there, but this is going to be a little bit more of a recap style because, as usual, we take the uh, 2-game slates off, and I think we maybe took a day off before that as well. So it's been a while, so I think we have a good bit to catch up on. Um, for the games, so I like to get, a little bit more of that. Um, recapping and stuff. I honestly don't remember where we were, so I'll just run through these games as well, just in case this might be a duplicate. I don't really remember, but either way, BLG IG. This is the one where IG's bottom lane swapped out. Actually, no, I do think we did. I do remember talking over this. IG looked actually a little decent in this series. Again, BLG not looking great in that one. OMG RNG, this is a pretty close one. Again, it ended up going to RNG in 3. We just have no ability to get our underdogs to win in game 3, despite them winning game 1. It is what it is. OMG still looking pretty good. RNG looking a little shaky. EDG, TT definitely had chances in this one. They were ahead in both of these. Actually, I feel like these are actually a long ways away now that I think about it. Um, but either way, I don't know. Quick recap, I guess, just for the sake of it. TT actually looked decent here. They've been able to get leads, but not do anything with them. So pretty much the opposite of AL, and they did that here. And against V5, AL managed to go to 3 with V5, and game 3 was actually pretty close as well. So although I am a fan of AL, I do think they've been looking better since their questionable game earlier. I think this is this is actually where we were last. This is actually where we were at the 3-gamer before the break. So LNG LGD. LNG got away with absolute broad daylight murder in this one, and they have no right winning the 3rd game. That was just a gigantic throw from LGD. Again, LGD have been looking kind of weird. They've been looking like up and down. Sometimes they look incredible. Sometimes they look really bad. And there's almost no reasoning to it. And I think if LGD just kept with a roster, they would be in such a good spot. A little bit down the road, they could probably use a different support as well, but that's a conversation for another day. This is a 56-minute game, nearly an hour long. LNG ended up getting the final team fight and winning the game. I think LGD should have Fearness, Shadow. You could argue different. I don't think there's a big difference for the mid laners. They could assume in the AD, and then I guess they could just keep Jin Zhao there as the support, but again, nothing too crazy. LNG looked really bad in this one. LGD looked kind of average-ish in this one. JDG FPX, we did have the FPX underdog victory here. They ended up bringing in Summit for games 2 and 3 after they lost the first one. Again, I don't think Xiaolahu is necessarily the problem in this for those games at all, but FPX are looking better. They're a team that's coming together, I think, a good bit here, and a team I'm looking to buy into as we go on. Again, JDG is a pretty hit or miss team. Just with the nature of their play style, they continuously drop games where it feels like they shouldn't. They're just kind of all over the place, and again, I think they were a little overhyped, a little overvalued in a sense. But they're a team that I like to target as an underdog. They're pretty much just a little bit crisper, cleaner version of AL, in my opinion. They're, if AL was to kind of hit their ceiling, they would probably be a little bit more on JDG, pretty much, a like for like. However, I do think AL is a little bit more balanced. I think Forge is a little bit more of a problem than like Yagao in a good way. I think Forge could be a little bit more used than I think Yagao is. I think Yagao's style was pretty limited, and I don't think it really I don't think it matches the rest of the team. I think if JDG had a proactive, solid, aggressive mid laner, they would probably be the best team in the world. I think Kanavi, 369, Hope and Missing, they all play their roles and do what they're supposed to do really, really well. And I think mid lane is one of the most important roles. It's either mid, jungle, and support. They are all very influential. Top laners and AD carries are a little bit more of a luxury type thing where you don't really need a great AD carry or top laner to do well. But, you know, I digress. I think if JDG had an aggressive mid laner, they'd be a crazy, crazy thing. Like, if JDG had Cream or something, like, they would be lethal. That's a dream scenario for me. Top esports, Weibo. This is the one we got wrong in a way. I mean, Weibo ended up outscoring them on DK, and that was the problem. They Top esports got outscored by them in the first game, even though they won it. Game 3 was pretty close as well. Like, this was a pretty bloody series overall. You know, Top esports looked pretty decent. Again, two pretty strong teams overall. Nothing too crazy in this one. That led us to the next day of RAWE. I don't remember if I made a video on this one. I don't think so, but I was on WE a good bit here. They ended up bringing the second game back, but ended up losing in 3. They just kept giving iBoy Zeri, and despite iBoy being really, really bad, Zeri's actually a relatively safe champion. The fact that you can E over the walls, get out of dodgy situations, it's a pretty safe champion, pretty similarly to Ezreal, just in a different sense. And I just think WE's drafting mistakes really came back to bite them in this one. You just cannot put iBoy on Zeri or Ezreal. If you ban out those two champions, iBoy will go like 0-6 and give you a free victory, just because his positioning and his awareness is just all-time low. Pretty decent ideas from WE. They look pretty decent. I just think, again, these teams that swap out these rosters just seem to be never growing or improving. They need cohesion. They need time to work together. I reference it every time, but AL is a team that's a lot better as a team than kind of the sum of its parts. And I just think if these teams picked a core 5, stuck with them together a little bit, they would probably be a little bit better off. But they keep swapping out their players. They have Shanks in mid lane for now. Don't agree with that. I think it should be Xie, but either way, they didn't get the job done. Then RNG took care of Ultra Prime pretty swiftly. Again, I just probably overrating Ultra Prime a little bit. I feel like the names are just not doing what they should be doing. And RNG, I mean, Gala show. He's just such an insane player. It's really hard to doubt RNG when Gala is playing this exceptionally well. They haven't been getting as much support from pretty much anyone else. I mean, they've all kind of had their ups and downs. I mean, we know Xiaohu's numbers have not been great. Breathe's been up and down. Ming has been making some questionable spot decisions here and there, but you know, they just have such insane players in every role. All they need is like anybody else to step up when Gala is playing this insane, and that's kind of what it came down to there. That one. So I think we have a couple more ones to go through. You know, I don't know, maybe either I'm re-going over some stuff I don't need to, but you know, it is what it is. BLG should have absolutely been able to wipe the floor in this one, but Chris specifically played really poorly in game 1 and 3. TT ended up getting the upset, and this was also with TT not having their full roster, by the way. This was with Kepler and Yao Yao, as opposed to Puff and Southwind. Puff was experiencing, I believe, some level of like a facial paralysis or something. I think he is fine now, but that's just what I saw on some Chinese forums. So they, you know, precautionary sat him out. They brought up their, I think they're just their academy bottom lane of Kepler and Yao Yao. And they looked pretty decent. They obviously, you know, won the series, took it over BLG. BLG are just still in shambles almost, it feels like. I just have no idea what to make of BLG at the moment. Don't really know what to make of TT either. I don't know how much we can like really rate them here. I don't think they new players did too much themselves, you know, talking about Kepler and Yao Yao here, but they beat BLG, who is a pretty decent team overall. Then we had OMG versus EDG. OMG ended up getting the third game victory for us finally. Shanji is just an absolute menace on this top Shyvana. He's literally innovated that pick by himself. So pretty exciting stuff. Again, OMG is a team I've been pretty high on overall. They're looking really incredible. I'm pretty hyped for this team. They're looking probably like a top 8 team. They're looking like, they're in that conversation for having a decent playoff shot, all things considered. And just everybody else is not looking that great, including EDG, who we've talked about a few times. EDG is still looking a little shaky, although they're still obviously like a top 8 team in their own right. Just with the players that they have, it's a little hard not to. Flandre and JJ, I think specifically, have been a little shaky. Mako's had his moments as well, but we know Scout and Viper what they can do, especially Viper. EDG seem very much similarly in the same boat of RNG, of that they're just being hyper carried by their insane 80 carry talent. And then we had the final one yesterday, LNG versus IG. LNG managed to clean it up a little bit and, dominantly take the series. I think game 1, IG's draft was pretty questionable, and then game 2, they just got completely outplayed. Kind of no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Tarzan looked pretty good on the jungle Poppy, although it didn't seem like the best spot for it. Doinby brought out the mid Gragas with the Gragas build that we've been seeing, there. So pretty weird things happening, kind of up and downs so rapidly. It's hard to, kind of see what is happening overall all the time. But LNG again still looking like a relatively middle to above average team. IG still looking like they can't get everything together here. Maybe when they get back to having their full roster and have a little bit more time back together again. I'm not sure what was happening where they had Wink move to support and then bring it on. They looked arguably better with that, so that's not good. But maybe Shin Liu was still sick or something. I don't know what was happening in that scenario, but I'm still not completely out on IG. Maybe I should be, because their record is pretty disastrous, but I'm not out on them yet, as maybe I should be. Weibo AL ended up getting the reverse sweep. They won the second and third game here. Again, AL just continuously being the truly counter logic gaming team of the LPL at the moment. Just incredible upset potential, the way they play the game. Game 3, they should never have won. They were down pretty heavily in this one. I want to say like 6,000 gold, maybe at like 15 or 20 or something. They should just have never won this, pretty much in any scenario. Completely undeserved victory from AL, honestly. But that's kind of, again, why we go against Weibo pretty consistently. We know Weibo and what they do, it's pretty wildly inconsistent. We know how the Shy can play. He was pretty good on game 1 for the NAR. They bullied out ZDZ pretty heavily. That was definitely the thing. And AL keep going to the Senna Tom Kent despite it like never working for them. So I'd love to see them just never do this again. That would be ideal. Get Chocho on these engagers. Get Betty on something that could follow up. And then Forge on something, again, pretty similar. Get Xiaohao on something where you can engage with. Let Xiaohao, let Chocho engage. Let Forge and Betty play around those. And, your recipe for success is pretty apparent. They ended up getting there in the third game. But again, this third match specifically was very, very, very undeserved. Weibo had a very, very big lead. Should never have won this game, for sure. Game 2 was pretty dominant. There's not much to say about that, but we do have our underdog pull through in the third one, so pretty crazy stuff kind of all across the board. A lot of ups and downs. League's kind of in a pretty crazy state at the moment, but again, pretty interesting one. Looking back, and let's take a look at the standings. The standings are kind of developing a little bit now. We've had a good few series. Obviously, we have AL up in 7th. Pretty crazy scene to imagine. BLG down in 14th, 2-5. Invictus Gaming 1-6. Again, they've looked so good in some times, but they just can never pull things together. FPX are team on the rise, I think. OMG are team on the rise as well. If I'm picking like a few teams that I'm definitely looking forward to, It's obviously going to be AL, still my boys, OMG, and then FPX. Those are definitely like the teams I'm heavily looking forward to get in on. There's obviously still the teams that I'm kind of not feeling the best on. I think they're all right here. EDG, LNG, RNG. You could maybe argue Weibo in that category as well. Just teams who have not looked the best. They've looked pretty shaky. They've pulled off the results here and there, but I'm still not, looking to them that great. BLG seem to be pretty overrated generally as well, so that'll be an interesting spot to look into. I don't know if we see them here maybe, on the 9th. These slates don't look the best, but, there's interesting things as well. And then one thing I should mention with the schedule is there's no games on the 7th. So 7-7, I will not be making a video on that LCK 2 gamer. I very rarely play the LCK either way. So LCK 2 gamer, no way, Jose. So yeah, we'll go ahead and get started into looking ahead to tomorrow. Overall, with how we've been going, I've been picking a lot of crazy underdogs, just a lot of spots that I've, had feelings for. This could be one, but it won't be. I'm going with the FPX favorite. I feel like Summit is still a little bit overrated from his time in the LCS. I feel like transitioning from the LCS to the LPL is going to be a weird one, but it's not like he's getting a tough competition here with LGD. And LGD are bringing in the other jungler on their roster. They're going from Shadow to KIIN, despite it being spelled like that. I believe it is just KIIN. For the jungle, so they're revealing the roster of Chalitza, KIIN, Yeji, Asum, and Jinjiao. Overall, not a terrible lineup relative to kind of where I expected them to be, which was the complete bottom of the league. They've shown some life, and I do think this line does feel a little crazy. We're putting a lot of stock into FPX very, very quickly, and that does bring some concern overall. But I just feel like FPX have been playing pretty well lately. They looked pretty good with Summit yesterday, or not yesterday, the last series that they were in. Obviously got the win over JDG. Again, maybe if this was a little bit of a different scenario, I would probably say take the shot with LGD. I think objectively speaking, this is a pretty decent spot for LGD, just because the price tag feels pretty crazy. Like if we were to look at this a little bit more objectively, we could say FPX, they started out 0-4, I believe. Lost to EDG, IG, RNG, V5, and Top Esports 0-5 actually. Granted, a lot of these series are against really good teams, and they were also really close. That's why we've been riding FPX the last couple times out, is because we know FPX have that potential. However, they've beat RA, who again I think is a very weak team, and they beat JDG, who I think is a very overrated team, relative to market. For that reason, I definitely think the idea makes sense to go to LGD. This is a pendulum that's swinging very quickly towards the FPX side, and I don't want to overreact to that. Again, I think this market price is a little crazy. FPX minus 375. I don't know the percentage off the top of my head, but that's assuming they win like, I don't know, 70-something% of the time, something like that. I'm not sure, but that sounds about right. But I mean, LGD have not looked completely lifeless in their own right. They had a close series with LNG. They obviously swept AL in a wild game that will forever. I don't care what people say about me or this one. I legitimately think there was something suspicious with this AL LGD series on the 23rd. We're well out of this one. This is multiple weeks back, and I'm not still upset about it, but there is something legitimately weird here. So I'm legitimately not going to value this series much. But in general, we've seen some decent fight from LGD overall, and I still think this is a relatively low-level matchup where one of these teams is a pretty big favorite. So, objectively speaking, I don't think a sprinkle of LGD would be that bad, but I'm riding FPX. It is what it is. I'm going to take FPX. I think they're probably going to get the 2-0. That's just where I'm headed. And this one, I do like mixing in some Summit. They picked him the KO last time out. So it looks like they do have the, look to try to get him some decent numbers. I kind of worded that weirdly, but they're looking to play through him as well. Like he had 9 out of 14 kill participation in this one. He had 15 out of 20 in this one, so he's looking at about like a 60-70% kill participation, which is very strong for a top laner. They look to play through him a good bit. It looks like Care might be the one who's a little bit left out to dry, but overall, I like the FPX lineup. I like the makeup of how they're looking, so I'm going with them. I think that's a pretty reasonable spot as well. And then up next is V5. We do have the return of Rookie, the LPL 2022 Spring MVP, I believe. Sorry, I'm trying to get to the right thing here. I believe 2022 Spring. Let's see. Yeah, most valuable player Rookie. So he was the MVP, obviously first on the L Pro team with Rich and Fotic. Karsa was up there as well. Man, PP God got kind of a little screwed here. These are all fair actually. I don't know. Sorry, I went on a little ADHD run. There's still a red flag here with V5. I don't think they've looked the best when they have Xiaolong Bao in for jungling. I'd much prefer to have Karsa, although Karsa's, I think, a little overrated in his own right. I think people look at the name and look at yeah, I mean, I just think name value wise, Karsa's a little overrated, but he's still a very strong jungler. I think a good bit better than Xiaolong Bao. I have not loved the look of this team when Xiaolong Bao is in. But either way, I just think they're much better than RA. You guys kind of know how I feel about RA. And then similar to something I actually said as a callback from last split during one random video, maybe you guys will remember this. When I was on V5 at the beginning of the last split in spring, when people didn't really think V5 was that good, but I was buying into V5, I talked about their drafting, and they actually draft pretty intelligently, and I think they're going to be able to hopefully put 2 and 2 together and ban iBoy Zeri, and I think that's going to be a pretty big help here. I think V5 are smart enough to recognize that iBoy has pretty much only shown any level of quality on Zeri. So hopefully V5 managed to do that again. They're a team whose coaching staff, Nofe, a pretty respected coach from V5, I think they're going to be able to ban Zeri, put the series to bed. I'm not too intrigued really on either side. I'm not too intrigued of looking at a RA as doing much here. I like V5 to probably get this 2-0. Again, you guys have seen, over the past couple of weeks, if you've been tuning into the videos consistently, I just kind of pick what I like, and I don't put too much thought else into it. We're going with the double favorites here in the LPL. I like FPX and I like V5 to get their 2-0s respectively. Although the LGD FPX series feels there's a little bit of uncertainty there. There's a little bit of, maybe LGD, not that bad. There's a little bit of something there. That's for sure, but either way, I'm fine. I like V5 here. We do have Xiaolong Bao and Rookie. That's a pretty weird thing for pricing because they're both priced as the kind of substitute. So you could get a little bit of a unique style build. I want to make a lineup just as a example, maybe, if I can do something here like we do this. Well, I mean, that's not going to work. If we do this is just an example. I wouldn't suggest making this video or this build by chance. Man, that's a pretty tough thing. If we went to like KT for example, nope. Predator Breon, maybe Lava Delight, I don't know. The point is, when you get these substitute pricing in for V5, you save the extra $200 on each slot. You save the extra, I don't know, 150 or whatever when you put them in the captain. So you can make a little bit different builds, and maybe people will build differently. I don't know. The point is that you can make weird builds when you have these like cheap pricing, because Xiaolong Bao and Rookie are simply just mispriced. They're priced as the substitute, so they're simply underpriced. You can make a little bit of a different build and get that way. So I like them both. In terms of which series I like, I didn't do the math yet. I kind of forgot, but my time, I have to be out of here by 6 o'clock. And I've yet to get ready, so running a little short on time, so I did forget to do the stats on this series. It's been a few days, so my apologies there. But if we look and we see Fun Plus Phoenix, LGD, Victory 5, and Rare Atom, we could see that there's definitely going to be a standout here. Actually, it's kind of pretty similar. Let's look at wins. B5 and FPX both do very, very similarly in wins. In defeat, it looks like RA and LGD both give up about the same in defeats. So these are actually very, very similar statistically for both V5 and FPX. So that's something you can keep in mind. I think at first glance, FPX LGD makes a little bit more sense, just because it is two lower end teams. They're probably a little bit more willing to throw down. I do have some concern with V5 RA. I do think that V5 can outmaneuver them pretty handedly, and that definitely has some concern. I just think at first glance, my initial lean is going FPX. LGD is my favorite series to target, and then V5 RA is that second option. And you guys may be thinking a little bit of, if I'm picking these double favorites here, how am I going to build around them? And I do think there is an LCK underdog here that I like. It is going to be Nongshim versus KT Rolster. I do like Nongshim versus KT, as that underdog pick for Nongshim. Sorry, I'm kind of all over the place. I'm trying to grab these these stats for the LCK. Again, combined kills per minute, still pretty low. I think obviously Fredit Brion series is going to be just diabolical. Team slot, KDF, definitely the one you get to, 5,400, very cheap. They score pretty decently, I think, when they win. Oh, they've yet to sweep anyone, so not great for them, but we know Fredit Brion's just very lackluster at the moment. They give up a lot of team slot points, so that's definitely where I would look. I would definitely try to get that KDF team slot one off in if you can. But the underdog pick is going to be Nongshim. Again, we've seen it, the story time and time again with Nongshim. So if we go over look at the LCK, sorry, I'm a little all over the place at the moment. Nongshim, they were a team I was rated very highly. Obviously, when I did my preseason rankings, I had them as the number 4 team. That's obviously not looking like it's going to come to fruition yet. But we've seen this time and time again with them. They've had big leads, just completely bottled them and blown them all. Their only win is over Hanwha Life, who is looking like the second worst team in the league. So it's not looking intriguing for Nongshim. But again, I don't think KT Rolster is that great either. I think this league is very, very condensed at the moment. I think we have a clear top 3 of Genji, T1, Dom1. I think we have a clear second little tier of DRX and Live Sandbox. And then, I think you could argue that the rest of these 5 teams of KT, Nongshim, Kwangdong, Hanwha, and Fredit are all probably just bottom 5. I think you could argue that there's a little mini tier of KT, Nongshim, Kwangdong in the 6, 7, 8, and then you could argue Hanwha and Fredit Brion are just a tier below everyone else. You could even argue that Fredit Brion just on a tier of their own down here, and then Hanwha's in this other middle tier, but it's a little nitpicky. Either way, I think this is just a really close matchup, and I've liked what I've seen from Nongshim. Accruing the leads and closing them out has obviously been extremely problematic. However, if you look at their match history, they've played a lot of those strong teams that I just alluded to. So out of those top 5 teams, we talked about DRX, T1, Genji, and Dom1. And that's 4 out of their last 6. That's obviously their 4 losses. They got swept by KDF, but again, that was another series where they were winning. And then obviously they got the win over Hanwha. It wasn't too impressive at all, but I just think that they have the ability to get the leads, and it should be easy to close games when you have as big of a lead as they usually get. Obviously, it does concern me that they just don't close games out. Like it is their thing now. It's what they do, and it is problematic. But if they can get leads, I think they can do enough to win the series. Hopefully 2-1, maybe 2-0, who knows? But KT haven't been too impressive to me either. Granted, they've also had a relatively similarly scheduled, but they got their wins over Fredit Brion and Hanwha Life themselves. So their 2-4 record feels a little inflated as well. Again, that's just kind of how the league is breaking down at the moment. They lost to Genji, they lost to T1, they lost to Sandbox, they lost to Dom1. They beat Fredit Brion, they beat Hanwha. Like there's a clear hierarchy of these teams. They lost to better teams, they beat worse teams. It's close. It's a 50-50. I think it's a pretty big coin flip. But I've just seen enough from Nongshim's early games. Like if we look at the context of their early games, obviously this early game rating on Oracle's Elixir has KT Roasters as slightly better. I wouldn't fully agree with that, but it's not like either of these teams' late or middle late rating has been exceptional either. If we look at gold difference, obviously Nongshim's a little worse, but I think the fact that KT have a free win over Fredit Brion, and then they obviously got the win over Hanwha, like it's tough. I think it's a 50-50, and I think I've just seen a little bit more from the Nongshim side. I think their proactivity and ability to do stuff is just a little bit stronger. I don't think we have a... Sorry, dude, I cannot talk lately. I don't know if we have an idea of what their roster is going to be, because they did swap out supports last time out. They tried out Peter and they went back to Effort. If you guys remember my videos from last split, I was actually pretty high on Peter, but he seems to be only playing Yuumi for them, which is odd, considering I feel like anybody can play Yuumi, but I guess he's just like their Yuumi guy. So I would just avoid the support role altogether for Nongshim. I don't think it's worth taking the shot with at all, unless you are like a 150 lineup guy and you want to have a couple Peter shares and a couple Effort shares or something, and then you just immediately write off a few lineups. You're probably going to get either Peter or Effort at like sub 5%, but the odds that they pan out is also like sub 5%. So I would try to just avoid that. I would go with like Kana, Dread, BDD, and Ghost as usual, but I've just seen enough. I think they're good enough, and I don't think KT Roasters look particularly great either. We did see KT Roaster ended up swapping out their mid laner last time out. They went with Vikla. I forgot who they played with before that. Oh, they've had Vikla. So he's had a couple series in. He didn't play before, right? Yeah, it was Arya. So they went from Rascal Cuz Arya aiming life to Rascal Cuz Vikla aiming life. It's close. It's a 50-50. One of them is minus 140. One of them is plus 110. I'll just take the slight like plus money there. I'll take them as the underdog here on DK. I think they're in a good enough spot to justify being an underdog on DraftKings. Like I don't see... You could see Fredit Brion, beat KDF. We see that a lot from Fredit Brion. If we were to look at Fredit Brion match history, like they pull out wins randomly all the time. I mean, we saw it like LCK Spring. They just randomly 2-0 Dom won. They actually went on a pretty good run here where they actually looked not bad. But the point being, like, this is just the thing Fredit Brion does, is they look bad and then they just randomly get upset wins. Like, it is what they do. So there's definitely some cause for concern there. However, I think most likely we're looking at KDF probably get the 2-0, maybe 2-1 over Fredit Brion, although that series is like, I would try to probably avoid that outside of like a team slot one-off, like I talked about earlier. But I think KDF should probably win that. I think FPX should probably win that. I think V5 should probably win that. So if we're looking at the only underdog, who I think is a pretty good spot, granted, they're probably going to be relatively popular. They are the only closely priced underdog. I'm fine going with them. I think it's a pretty good spot for them. I think it's enough at their underdog price tag to get the job done. I just think that it's a good enough building block to go with, and it makes sense to me. So we'll look at the players and then go ahead and get out of here. Again, my big targets are going to be FPX, V5, and Nongshim. So we'll go ahead and plug them into this, statistic getter, I guess you could say. FPX, V5, and Nongshim, of course. And keep in mind, we do have some different players in here, so remember who we're looking for. Dream will not be playing. Karsa will not be playing. It will be Xiaolong Bao. Obviously, Rookie's numbers are going to be pretty crazy. I would play Rookie if you're going to V5 at all. I think he, obviously, previous MVP, I think that's where you'd want to go. Effort, probably keep him out of their player pool. Peter, keep him out of your player pool. That kind of stuff. But we'll go quickly position by position and then get out of here. So usually the main ones we look for are top lane. Summit, pretty good. He would definitely be a target of mine. Kana, if you're going that way. Although Rich's numbers are not that great, we've definitely seen some ups and downs from him. Shallow not playing, so I think all three top laners are fine. However, I would probably prioritize Summit. Then I think statistically these are the same of how I would order them. Junglers, it's usually just whoever you want. All are fine. Statistically, all are pretty good. I definitely think this is just whoever you're stacking with is whoever your jungler will be. All are good between Klid, Xiaolong Bao, and Dread. Mid laners, all are fine as well. Again, Dream's numbers probably feel a little low. I would probably have Rookie as my highest mid laner priority, but again, Care, BDD, Rookie, all fine. It's just however you want to build. AD carries, all are fine. Photic's numbers are just a little bit above the rest. Actually, Photic and Ghost's numbers are above LWX's, although again, we talked about this last time. LWX's numbers are kind of misleadingly low. If we were to look at FPX's match history and look at their past couple wins, they've definitely been with a good bit of LWX in mind. So if we look at their wins here, I guess this is not that great, but he had 9 out of 14 and then 11 out of 20. So numbers not that great, but maybe he's a good way to get unique if you force stack with FPX but leave out LWX. Could be a way, although that feels pretty risky. Numbers not the best, but I mean he had 8 kills here. That's pretty strong. Look at the other series here. Usually you want the AD carry. 13-0 here, 6-3-12 here for FPX. For LWX, FPX, jeez, I didn't realize that was a mouthful, but we definitely saw it much better in this one. 13-0-6, that is a crazy strong score line. 6-3-12, not the greatest, but 18 out of 22 kill participation, very strong. Again, this was a little bit of an RA target because we know iBoy is really bad, so maybe you want to bump up the V5 shares of the bottom lane specifically. They are the most expensive. They're going to be really highly owned. You're not getting unique by going with V5's bottom lane at all. That's something to keep in mind. Maybe you want to try to avoid an LWX in your FPX stacks. That could probably be a weird, unique way to get there. Almost all the time when people stack these, when people force stack, you're going to want to get their AD carry in, because usually if your team gets a lot of kills, your AD carry will do that as well. But his numbers are not the best, so a little bit of a sprinkle, weird way to get unique there. For support, it's pretty much just Hong or Effort. I can't imagine trying to get to Effort or Peter. Although you could probably try to get to Effort in a weird way. I wonder. I mean, he's only 5K. Yeah, I think maybe you could try and justify playing Effort here. His numbers are pretty decent. They are cheap. He's pretty cheap. We've only saw Peter play once, and he was immediately subbed out. He's only played the Yuumi, so maybe going to Effort at a really low ownership could be okay. But if you want to safety, if you're just making a couple lineups, if you don't want your lineups to be dead instantly, I would try to avoid Effort. But it's a decent GPP idea if you're leaning that way. But Hong and PP God would be the one way I would go. So I think that'll be it from me today. Again, pretty interesting one. We recapped probably a lot more than we needed to, but we're back. Hopefully you guys managed to get everything out of this video. Hopefully this kind of puts to rest some of your guys' thoughts maybe of this guy just picks crazy underdogs all the time. I just kind of pick what I pick, and and I go with what happens. It doesn't always go our way, but as Daniel Negreanu would say, such is life. And I will see you guys tomorrow. Actually, nope, cancel that. I will not be seeing you guys tomorrow. Again, The 7th, there is no LPL games, and I will not be making a video on a 2-gamer in the LCK. DKDRX is actually a pretty good one. I would go Dom 1. Hanwha Sandbox, not a pretty good one. I think Sanwa Box would win that, so probably just double LCK favorites for me, and for that reason I just wouldn't be making a video on it, and I would also not be playing it on DraftKings at all. Very rarely would I want to try to play a double favorite LCK slate. That just sounds like lighting your money on fire. So that'll be it for me today. I will not be seeing you guys tomorrow, but I should be back the next day with the full LPL LCK 4-gamer, and I'm pretty excited for this one. This should be an interesting slate. So let's hopefully build up our bankroll a little bit. I guess one quick thing before I leave. Since we are building up our favorites here with like FPX and V5, I think contest selection will be pretty important. I wouldn't try to prioritize getting into those big 10k to first, whatever contests. Try to enter like smaller single entry stuff. Try to get a decent bankroll builder cash. I normally don't recommend double ups, but if that's your thing, probably not a terrible idea. The other thing was winner take all, like 3-man, 5-man winner take all. Those are pretty decent contests as well. Make your own contests as well. Like you could get some you can get some good value out of those 3-man, 5-man winner take all things. Making your own contests, it's a good way to build the bankroll as well. So keep those things in mind when you're building, and yeah, that'll be it for me tonight. I will see you guys all in a couple days. Thank you guys for tuning in.